How do you get out of bed on the worst days when everything sucks and you're depressed or you're suffering from anxiety? How do you get yourself out of bed when you don't have a job that requires you to get up? Welcome to episode 146 of Explore Your Enthusiasm with me, Swiger, and today we are talking about the unfun side of being self-employed or working for yourself or working for your own projects. This last weekend at Midwest Craft Con, I was on a panel about depression and anxiety. We did it early in the morning at like 9 a.m. on Sunday. And we each talked about our own experiences, about the stuff that doesn't help, about the stuff that does help. And you guys know I've talked about that before on the podcast. We will link up that episode about anxiety and depression and creative business. We'll link it up below, or you can just Google Swiger, anxiety and depression. It'll pop right up. So I was super nervous to talk about it in public. I've talked about it on the podcast, but I've not talked to real people in real life about it on that big of a scale. The room was pretty full. And we did a Q&A section at the end. And one of the questions, it's stuck with me and I've been thinking about, is what gets you out of bed in the morning? And I wanted to share with you guys how I answered the question in the room. So I have two answers. The first, which is very practical, and the second is a little more emotional. And then I'm gonna give you the answers I gave, like what gets me out of bed, and then I'm gonna turn it around and help you come up with your own answers to this question. So how do you what gets you out of bed on a day when you're depressed or you're suffering anxiety or everything is awful? So the first caveat is that sometimes at the absolute worst of it, you just can't, right? Like nothing I say is going to help. And if you're in the middle of that right now, it can be annoying to hear somebody else talk about it. Like, just get out of bed. It'll be fine. That's the worst. So I just want to give you permission to be where you are and suggest that you talk to a doctor or a loved one. And if you are thinking, if you haven't been able to get out of bed for more than a week or two, you can call the suicide prevention hotline. There are several hotlines you can call if you're depressed. I will link them up in the show notes. But talk to somebody who loves you. Get on the phone with somebody who loves you and make an appointment with your doctor. Now, that said, if it is a morning, or you can feel yourself slipping into it. So I often experience the feeling that like it's coming, right? Or that I'm not waking up as enthusiastic as I would like to, or it's just a particularly hard day. Maybe it's the anniversary of something rough. Maybe I went to bed too late the night before. That's when this is going to help. If you've not been able to get out of bed for more than a couple days, and especially over a week or two, you need to get some help. This will not suffice. But if it's just sneaking up on you, or you just feel like more mornings are hard to get out of bed than most, this is for you. So I have two answers. The first is pretty practical, and that is I have the easiest time getting out of bed, even as I'm slipping into depression or my anxiety is getting bad, when I know exactly what I need to do for the first several hours. And not what I need to do, because need is like pressure, but when I have a plan for what I'm going to do with the first several hours of my day. So part of this is having routines, knowing that my routine is on the slowest days, I'm going to get up, make coffee, meditate, journal a little bit, and read. And then I'm going to start work. That's like a low-key day. When I'm feeling my best and when I really get into the flow, my morning routine is get up, put on my workout clothes, go work out, grab a coffee on my way home, meditate, read, journal, and then get a shower and then start work. But the problem is people think of that morning routine as being something you all have to figure out at once. Your morning routine can just be, I'm going to get up and drink my coffee and look at Instagram and then I'll start work. Okay? It can be whatever it is. You don't have to have all of the pieces. I've been working on this for the past couple years, so I have a couple more pieces because I know what works well for me. But that's just part of it. Part of it is knowing exactly what you're going to do when you get out of bed. The second part of it is knowing what you're going to do in your work for the rest of the day. So if I have a big, open, unclaimed day in front of me, I actually find it harder to get out of bed than when I know I have some commitments and responsibilities and things I need to work on for upcoming commitments and responsibilities. This is why I teach in my book, Map Your Business, to make a big list of everything it's going to take to reach your goal in the next 2 to 3 months. So this won't be a big list of everything you'll do for the rest of your life, but in the next 2 to 3 months. And then break that down into what you're going to do this month. And then each week, look at what are you going to do this week of that list of the things you're going to do this month. Pick a subset of them. And then each day, pick a subset of the list for the week. This is what I teach. This is what I do in my own planner. In fact, I'm going to upload a video about how I use my own planner sometime this week. You'll find it on YouTube, taraswiger.com/YouTube, if that's not where you're watching this right now. I'll show you how I do that in my own planner, breaking it down. But literally, you can just take what I said and use it right now to break down what needs to be done for the week and then each day. So I'm a giant fan of doing that because what gets me out of bed is knowing what I'm going to do today. And if instead I only have the list of everything that needs to be done in my business in the next month, that's too overwhelming. That's also too vague. You can keep putting it off. Like people who say they have a real trouble with procrastination, I find that it's often just that they haven't chunked it down small enough. They're thinking, I'm not working on giant project X because they don't know really actually what are all the steps. They haven't broken it down into action steps to do. So that gets me out of the bed in the morning, knowing exactly what today I'm working on. And part of what I do, and I know people do this in different ways, but I kind of have days that are set for certain tasks. So Mondays tend to be my writing days. Tuesday are my recording days. I recorded this on a Tuesday. Wednesdays are my Starship chat days, where I am in a live chat with Starship captains, usually from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Not everybody's there the whole time. I'm there the whole time. And in between that, getting up to date on the Starship forums, and then at the end of the day, doing my emails. And then Thursday and Friday, I work on big projects or do some recording if there's more recording and I didn't get it in on Tuesday. Having that split up of my days means that when I open my eyes and I know what day of the week it is, I know what I'm going to work on. And I can usually find something in that to get excited about, enthusiastic about, and kind of get out of the bed. I realized a couple months ago, after I went to the doctor and they put me on a medication, and the medication made me real fuzzy and then eventually led to real deep depression that was medicinally induced. As soon as I went off the medicine, it went away, which of course I didn't know at the time. But when I started feeling fuzzy, I immediately turned over most of the things in my business. I either stopped doing them, or like I reran past episodes of the podcast, or I turned them over to Jess and I told her how to check in on it and keep things running in the background. I just decided not to deal with it. And in doing so, I took all responsibility off my plate while I figured things out and started to feel better. But I realize now that didn't help. So everybody is different. Having too many commitments and pressures can make you feel overwhelmed. For me, having no commitments actually made it worse because I didn't have anything to do each day. So then I kind of didn't have anything getting me out of bed in the morning. I mean, other than my dogs and my love for my husband and the people I love, but I didn't have anything to do. And for me, knowing what I'm going to do is part of what will get me going because, okay, I actually care about that and I want to do it. This is why people who have day jobs, even when they're suffering deep depressions, still end up going to work because they know what they need to do. So, I found for me, having absolutely nothing on my plate for the day is not a good thing. And by the way, you guys know I don't work on weekends. And if I do work on a weekend, like when I just worked, I was teaching Midwest CraftCon all weekend. On Monday was my day off. So it's not that I mean that I work every day, it's that I know what I'm going to do every day. So I had a couple things I knew I wanted to do around the house on Monday. On Saturdays, sometimes the thing I'm doing with my day is laying on the couch and reading. And I know if you have small children, that's the most annoying thing to ever hear me say. But sometimes that's what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm taking the dogs to the park. Sometimes Jay and I are going to go to Asheville and go to a restaurant. So that's what I mean by knowing what you're going to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be work, but when it's literally nothing, there's nothing. I found that to be the opposite of motivating, for that in itself to be depressing. So knowing what I'm going to do when I get out of bed is the first part of my answer, and having something there. So I've decided, and I've actually talked to quite a few students about when they were going through a hard time, loosening up their commitments and their expectations of what they could get done in a day, but not giving themselves free rein to do to not commit to anything. Right? So I had one student who kept up an ongoing commitment each month, and she had plenty of time to work on it. She let go of a lot of the other things, but she kept this so she would have something to work on. Otherwise, you can feel, if you own your own business and you're working in your business, you can feel when you just let it all go that you kind of don't have a business anymore. And this is why Stacy and I created the class, Take a Break Without Breaking Your Business. We created that class because we know that whether it's maternity leave or it's sickness or it's depression, when you let go of all the tasks in your business, you often then just stop having a business and you never come back to them. So keeping some tasks, but narrowing in your focus, or letting go of a lot of things, but keeping some tasks there, can get you through hard times. Even when the hard times is for a happy reason, like maternity leave. Now, the second thing that kept me going, and this I got all cry about on stage, so we'll see if I can hold it together, is I was thinking of you guys. I was thinking of my listeners, my readers, my students, and that's what got me out of bed many of the worst mornings, is the knowledge that I was learning something and developing empathy for something many of you struggle with. And knowing that if I kept going through it, I would come out the other end and be able to talk about it with you, and that I could create something from it. So knowing that it wasn't about me, and like obviously it's about me in the moment, but like my long-term vision was to make it not about me, but to make it about helping other people who are going through it. And but when I say helping, I just mean talk honestly and help them feel not alone. Like, I mean, I'm not a therapist and I'm not a researcher. I don't have answers, but I can help you know you're not the only one going through it. I remembered that on many, many days. And if you were to read my journal through my worst days, which I don't recommend, you would find that I decided pretty soon after kind of realizing, what I've been dealing with for a long time is anxiety. I decided just a couple weeks after I first started dealing with it that it was something I was going to talk about on the podcast. I had no idea I would end up talking about it at conferences, but I decided I was going to talk about it on the podcast specifically because keeping it hidden felt like reinforcing the stigma that I was already feeling like internally, and that keeping it like something that I couldn't talk about would basically be saying to all the people who have talked to me about it over the years that like it should be hidden. And I just decided I wasn't going to hide it. And so I knew right from the beginning that I was going to talk about it, and knowing that I was going to need to find a way to talk about it motivated me. And it kept me going because I knew like this is just going to be something. It's going to give me more empathy. It's going to give me more kindness, and it's going to help me relate to the people who come to me. So for years, since 2010, I've been working with makers and artists, and the number of makers and artists who work with me who have either chronic illness, like chronic pain, like fibromyalgia, or chronic fatigue syndrome, or they're recovering from cancer, or they're suffering depression or anxiety, the number of those people I work with is huge. It's a huge percentage of people end up telling me, actually, I'm dealing with this thing, and your whole gentle way of talking about it was appealing, because I can't do hardcore boot camp, just pound it out kind of stuff. So that's the other thing that kept me going, is thinking about you. Now, as you are thinking about this, hopefully not right now, maybe at some point in the future, and you're like, day after day, just getting out of bed is hard, I want you to think of two things. First one is make sure you know exactly what you need to do in your business. Make sure that you're taking your big goals and you're breaking them down. Here's the thing. Just having a big list of tasks to do is not motivating. Knowing that it's leading to something big that you care about so much is super motivating. So you need to make sure that at least some of your week or your hours is spent on doing stuff you super care about. And that's why I'm always talking about setting goals and being clear about goals. So first, set a goal that you super care about, break it down into a 3-month chunk, then get super clear about all the actual actions you need to take to make that happen. And of course, you're not going to know all of them. Some of them are, you're just guessing, right? You're just experimenting. And then each week, get clear on what actions you'll take this week. Then each day, decide a couple of them on your day. Now you're going to be working on the stuff, the in and out stuff of your business that's not directly related to a goal, like writing product descriptions or making products and uploading them. Those might not be directly related to the big goal you super care about, but it'll be easy to get up and get started on that when you know you're working towards something bigger. And it's going to be easier to get started on it when you know exactly the tasks you need to take. It'll be much less overwhelming. If you need help with this, you can check out my book at taraswiger.com/map. I walk you through the process of getting clear about where you want to go big picture and then breaking it down into chunks. And then there are monthly reviews. So you can say, what did I do this month? What am I going to do next month? Maybe you overestimated all the things you could get done in a month. So you're going to work on them the next month and reassess your expectations. Maybe you didn't think you would get as much done as you did, so readjust your expectations. Thing is, it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process of figuring out what you can get done and what actually makes progress and where your goal is going, if you're getting closer to it or not. So you can check out taraswiger.map to help you with that. So that's number one. Know exactly what you need to do. The next thing I want you to think about is your why. Why are you doing this? So I think I've talked about this before on the podcast. So your why, there are usually two sides of it. There's your internal mission for what you're doing and your external mission for what you're doing. And when I say internal, I mean, what are you doing for you? So do you want to have a business because, in my case, I want to pay my family's bills and let me and Jay both pursue careers we're super excited about? That's my internal mission. Yours might be, I want to get paid fairly for my work. I want to be home to homeschool my kids. I want to be able to take a year-long maternity leave, whatever it is. That's your internal mission. It's what you're doing for you and your family. Your external mission is what you're doing for the world, right? Like, I want to help you guys not feel so alone as you work in your creative handmade businesses. You might want to provide beautiful mugs that bring cheer to someone's life, or gorgeous jewelry that lights someone up when they see it, or jewelry that makes people feel good about being eco-conscious and responsible in their decision making. Whatever it is you want to bring to other people, that's your external mission. So when mornings are hard or evenings are hard, think about that. Look at not just why you're doing it for you, but focus on your external mission, or focus on the people in your life that your business and your work is helping. So we're talking specifically about using your work to get you out of bed in the morning. Obviously, your kids needing to be fed, your dogs needing to be walked will often actually get you out of bed. But in order to keep you motivated and keep you working, which I think is where the heart of this question came from, think about who are you helping, who are you serving. Make it not about you. Because that's the thing. I feel like my experience of depression and anxiety makes it all about me and makes me very internal, and like the focus is always on me. How am I feeling? Why do I feel like this? And the more I can get out in the world and think about the other people that my work impacts, and if you're an artist and you're thinking, well, but my work doesn't help anybody, it brings joy, it brings light, it brings silliness or goofiness or color. It brings something to the world. The world needs your voice and your artistic talents in it for the people who will see it and love it, and it will make them happy. So that's what I want you to focus on. Know exactly what you need to get done, and then tap into who you're making it for and why you're making it for them. I would love to know what you do to get out of bed in the morning. I asked this on Instagram and I got some coffee and knitting and talking to friends, some good answers. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell me in the comments below or tell me on Instagram with the hashtag Explore Your Enthusiasm, which is what all the listeners use when they share what they're doing when they listen. So explore your enthusiasm. Tell me what gets you up in the morning. I'd love to talk about this. A little teaser of what's coming up. Many of you filled out my survey, which you can find at taraswiger.com/survey. And the overwhelming thing I heard is that you want to talk more about money. So starting in March, starting next month, March 2017, all month we're going to talk about money. All month. We're going to talk about profitability. We're going to talk about accounting software I use and like. We're going to talk all about money. So it's going to kick off with talking about income reports in handmade businesses. I did a study last year, 2 years ago, where I asked people to report anonymously about their income. Then I shared those results with you. We're going to do that again in March. And I am remaking Pay Yourself, the class, because so many of you asked me to bring it back. So that's what's coming in up in March. If you want to hear that, then be sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. And I hope you have an enthusiastic week full of really great mornings.